So it was recently announced that Spectacular Spider-Man is about to be on Disney Plus, and I figured, hey, you know what? This is a real good time for me to address some issues that I've had with Marvel and their handling of Spider-Man for the past like 5 or 6 years, probably longer. So let's get to that. Hi, hey, and hello there. Obi-Han here, and welcome back to the Comic High Ground. And yes, as I said, we are coming into this thing with a bit of aggression, because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who has this complaint. So let's get started. See, Spider-Man is very special to millions of people, and he's a superhero for so many of us, myself included, of course. So when I look at Spider-Man's history and where he came from to where he is now, there's a bit of a glaring issue. Of course, we know that Spider-Man was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko in the pages of Amazing Fantasy 15 in 1962. Now, Peter Parker has gone through all sorts of different character arcs, moments, and growth since that first debut. But here's where my and many other issues come in. At some point, Marvel, in all their omnipotent grand knowledge, decided that Peter Parker needed to be brought back to his roots. That meant getting rid of his marriage to Mary Jane and sending him right back to his college days. Or right after his college days. Joe Quesada, at least I believe it was Joe Quesada, thought that Peter had become too old and therefore unrelatable to their current readers. And let me tell you something. At that time, I was amongst their current readers. And when he did this, it pissed me off, as I'm sure it did most of the rest of us. See, the thing is, we had Ultimate Spider-Man at that time. He was the young Spider-Man that all of us went to for young teenage Spider-Man stories. But, all in all, I think many of us wanted the main 616 Peter to remain untouched. And here's the thing, Peter Parker has such a rich character history. That old 1990s Spider-Man animated series, you know, the one with the awesome song, the theme song that everybody remembers, that I can't play, you know what I'm talking about. But that show was largely based on those character moments. And that show is also what introduced so many of us to the character of Spider-Man. The 90s show is so important to me that, to be honest, shows like Spectacular Spider-Man, it just will never surpass it. Yes, I know Spectacular Spider-Man is really critically acclaimed. Yes, I know everybody pretty much loves that show. But hey, look, all I'm saying is that the 90s animated series will always be my Spider-Man series. Give me Christopher Daniel Barnes yelling into the mic any day.
Get back here, Shocker! Shocker! You can't escape me! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
I don't care if people think it's overacting. That was my Spider-Man. That's the definitive Spider-Man voice in my head, aside from Yuri Lowenthal. No offense, Josh Keaton. And that's my point, okay? Alright, yeah. I love both shows, but still, give me the 90s series any day of the week. I will watch it all the way through. Animation errors and all, okay? Alright, now let me get off of that soapbox. Now, back to my main point. Right now, Marvel is hurting the character of Peter Parker by keeping him in this perpetual age of 22-ish to 29-ish. He literally is not growing. It's like a rinse and repeat. Oh, Peter has money problems. Oh, Peter is struggling with his love life. Oh no. Oh no. Something is going on with Aunt May. It's a constant process of recycling ideas with a new coat of paint. And, by the way, speaking of girl problems, let's touch on that. Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson have been one of the, with the capital T-H-E, one of the biggest comic book relationships of all time. You got Superman and Lois, you got Reed Richards and Sue Storm, heck, you could even say Batman and Catwoman. I mean, even though, you know, they didn't get married, and, well, there is that one attempt, but still. Look, my point is Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson was a relationship that had such growth. It was built up so well, and it was the personification of what real love between two people was. Now, don't get me wrong, they were not the perfect couple. Peter had his hangups, and Mary Jane had some issues as well. But that's just it. They weren't perfect. Now, I don't know about any of you, but I'm definitely not perfect. And the fact that Peter and Mary Jane had real struggles is a testament to how amazing their relationship was. And the issues they had weren't crazy, right? Peter was having issues in terms of job, you know, wanting to be the breadwinner and everything. And then Mary Jane had issues with Peter being Spider-Man in terms of the danger. She wasn't necessarily worried about herself all the time so much as she was always worried about if he was going to come back home. And that makes perfect sense. It's real. So what does Marvel do? Well, that's simple. They tear them apart, with Mary Jane routinely having some of the same issues she had before, even though they had basically fixed said issues. Come on! Now, Peter as a character is suffering from what Marvel is doing to him. There are so many people who get fed up with what is going on with Peter that they just drop the book and never look back. For the past 10 to 15 years, Marvel has had about 3 different writers on Spider-Man, and Dan Slott had that job majority of the time. Now, Dan Slott did a lot to the character of Spider-Man, and to be honest, there were a lot of issues. Lots of Spider-Man fans say that Spidey really did not like Spidey at that time, and I can agree with that. He had a weird chip on his shoulder, and he made some questionable decisions. This is also where Mary Jane's issues with Peter re-emerged. They were the most prevalent in Slott's run. The best thing about Slott's run is that Peter actually did have decent work, and the fact that he introduced Spider-Verse was a plus as well. But after Dan Slott's run was complete, Nick Spencer took over. And man, let me tell you, that was a godsend. In the 2 years Nick Spencer was writing Spider-Man, he fixed almost every issue there was with the character in the comic from the past 20 years. He even had Peter prepped to propose to Mary Jane again. Like, that in and of itself is just award worthy in my opinion. Like, he's just the Spider-Man guy for the past 10 years, because just from that, I don't think people understand how much we Spider-Man fans want Peter and Mary Jane to be together again. I'm just saying. So Nick Spencer basically saved Spider-Man. Now, Marvel, surely, now that Spider-Man is back to where he's supposed to be, you will not make the same mistake twice. Damn it, Marvel! Ah! Okay. Since you all made the same mistake again, let's try it this way. There are fixes for this aside from what Nick Spencer did. Now, I know plenty of other YouTubers have touched on this, and I just wanted to have my own input on it. Peter needs to be allowed to mature. Truly. He needs to be able to have a stable career, settle down with Mary Jane. I was gonna say a wife, but no, Mary Jane is the only person that Peter should be with. Take notes, Marvel. Just because Peter settles down, it doesn't mean he has to stop being Spider-Man. And just because he gets married and has kids, it doesn't make him unrelatable. For as many kids and teenagers that Marvel has reading their comics, there are an equal number of adults, if not more. Adults, believe it or not, still like to be able to identify with this character. My generation, the one that you all were originally catering to, Marvel, when you initially reset them, guess what? We've grown up. We're adults, and many of us have wives and kids now. So guess what? We would like to see Peter get back to his actual roots. The roots that Marvel cut when de-aging him. Let him have his daughter. Let him struggle through the process of becoming a father and what it entails. What does Spider-Man in an ongoing long-form story look like trying to provide for a pregnant Mary Jane? What does it look like when Mary Jane goes into labor and Peter's in the midst of a Sinister Six ambush? And I know, why the heck would she go into labor at this most inopportune time? But remember, this is Spider-Man we're talking about. So what does Peter do in that situation? Does he call for help? Maybe Miles comes to assist him. And speaking of Miles, the funny part is, if Marvel wants a younger Spider-Man for a younger audience, they have a brand spanking new character in Miles Morales. He is young and new and has the space for all kinds of young Spider-Man stories to tell. To be honest, Marvel isn't really handling him well either, but I'll address that some other time. Miles has become a fan favorite, so the popularity is there. He has the following. Just use him for teenagers out there. And again, this isn't to say that teenagers can't enjoy a grown Peter Parker. If my generation can follow it, then any other young generation can as well. I think that Insomniac Games Spider-Man has become probably one of the best recent interpretations of Spider-Man, and yes, that's including the MCU version. See, in the game, Peter is actually given the opportunity to grow as a character, and while he grows, he also mentors Miles Morales, and that is their dynamic, unlike in the comics where they hardly ever interact now. If Marvel would just let Peter Parker grow up, it would do so much for his character. He matures, he learns, and he progresses. Now, I am preparing a video that will be titled The Writer Who Saved Spider-Man in reference to Nick Spencer, and that'll kind of talk about specifically what he did to save the character. But before I release it, I'm going to go through the history of the Spider-Man comics from the Stan Lee era to now. So I'll have a series of videos talking about some of the storylines from the past leading up all the way to now. It's a really interesting way of giving you all some insight on what the comics used to be like versus what they are now. And some of you might already know, but for those who don't, well, you're in for a treat. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan like many of you if you can't tell, so it's frustrating to be told to shut up and take what we give you because we know best by Marvel and their editors. But with that said, that's all I got for today. Be on the lookout for those upcoming Spider-Man videos. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And let me know in the comments what you all think about the current state of Spider-Man in the comics. Do you like it? Are you like me and think that they are ruining his character? Do you even care? With all that said, remember, we have the high ground. And Marvel, to you, surely, you're gonna fix what you're doing with Spider-Man, right?